When you say survey, you were talking about like discipline referrals. Is that something that we have tracked right now?
Well,
Like,
no, right here they
Yeah.
say, how many do you do participate in school activities? Went from 2,900 and change to 7,100 and change. So that's what we can survey our kids about, and we can ask them, same things, have you ever thought about committing suicide? A week later, ask them if it made an impact on them.
Well, the PACE survey does some of that too, and so we could compare that year to year and see what that
Yeah,
difference is.
you have to give time between, you can't be
Right,
like
so
that.
how long in between,
It's not like we do it
before
1 week
RC
and then
and
2
after
weeks
RC, was this data taken? How long?
I mean, I don't know, but I would assume like with anything, like you can't, especially for the discipline referrals. I mean, you can't look at discipline referrals this week and then next week and expect to see.
Well, that's what I
a
said, I mean, like
appreciable
this
I feel
week,
better
2
now
weeks,
we have
5 months,
data.
6 months.
change. No, I'm absolutely for surveying it, but
I mean, you
that-
need to make
yeah.
sure you're.
I mean,
what at a time when it makes sense
all
to
they
do
did was
that.
run a,
Right.
all they did was run a little I have SBS that
Yeah.
So like, couldn't we just run this
Yeah,
analysis?
we collect
A multivariate?
all of that discipline data already in Power School.
Right,
And then the
exactly.
pay surveys every other year, so
So,
we would have that type of,
yeah.
data as well. But the hard
Run
part's
before,
gonna be,
run after.
the hard part's gonna be isolating the variable of the assembly and the
Yeah.
effect of that alone on, cause there's other things that the schools do.
Mhm.
But still, if you're looking just to see improvement, this
Well, can you-
would be something that contributes to that improvement.
Mhm.
So you can take all of that data that we currently have,
could
you
do
can run it
like
anytime
so you can go back and look at data that you had,
in previous years, yes.
yeah, so you could do it like last year, then this year, then, and see if it drops,
It's all
you never know.
archived, so we can, at any
You
point.
can look at the
Nonetheless, I
week
still
of
think it's a good deal,
March
even for,
11th to that week, March 11th to the following year. See if it changed, from the time they had it to a year later, right?
Mhm.
I think some of those questions
Um,
though, I'm kind of like for example, that have you ever considered suicide?
Well, that's our question.
Well, I know, but what I'm saying is, would that next year, that wouldn't necessarily change, because if you have ever considered it, then you still would say that you have ever you'd have to say, well, have you considered it in the last 12 months?
that's a different
Do you know what I
analysis.
mean?
We
So
were
it's-
talking about disciplinary referrals, and you were talking about this.
Right, and
this
participate
law.
in school, intervene in bullying, would not bully, have you reached out to others?
This is an easy
Right.
enough thing to do. You do it before, you make a survey, you have the kids take it before they take the assembly, and then a week or two later or something like that, you have them take another
Yeah.
survey. And then you compare the analysis, am I right, is that?
Yeah, although I don't
a
think we
week
need a
later
new
would be
survey,
okay.
I think we would just use our most recent data,
Yeah.
and then
And I don't
No,
know,
whenever
I
you
mean,
want to then
this
reissue.
is on, I mean, we were moved on to the participate, do you participate in school activities? Do you, did you ever intervene in a bullying situation? That's what Mrs. Dolan is referring to, which is different than what we were referring to, which
Right.
is the
Right,
disciplinary
I think you have the
records.
perception data, and then you have the hard discipline data, and
Yeah.
we could
Right,
look
but-
and see
I mean, I
how
would like
recent
to
is
see
the.
all of the data, if they
Right.
report it and they say it's better, ours should be better. If it's this great, 117%, 282%,
I think it's clear to the
47%
administration
reduction.
what you're looking for, and so maybe the administration can talk about it and come up with a plan for that kind of information and get back to us of what you think would be the best way to, kind of figure out the before and after, what you think is the best way to do that.
Okay.
Thank you for this, it's exciting, I find it very exciting.
Next up is review request to waive school real estate tax penalties. Mr. Doppler?
Okay, so this year we got 3 of these requests. Last year we did not get any. I believe maybe the year before we had one or two maybe. But so what happens is the board passes the annual budget in June, and then in the middle of June, and then that next week we prepare the tax bills and mail the tax bills out, so they're with the taxpayer prior to July 1st, which is when the taxes can officially begin to be paid. And there's just a time frame where the taxpayers can pay their taxes at a 2% discount. After that, there's a time frame where the taxpayers can pay the taxes at the face value of the bill. And then after that period is over, there's a period where the taxpayers can pay the tax bill in penalty period, which is 10% penalty of the face value of the bill. And if they continue to not pay the taxes after December 31st, they go delinquent and go to tax claims at the county, and the county begins the process of collecting the taxes, or eventually down the road, taking the property if the taxes don't. So when we get to the point where we're at the end of the face period, our tax collectors send out what's called a final notice to all the taxpayers who haven't paid their taxes yet. It's a notice that says, by the way, your taxes aren't paid, and you have until December 31st to pay the taxes. If you haven't paid the taxes, then you become delinquent and all that. So it's a final notice, basically saying, giving the taxpayers a reminder. And we pay our tax collectors to do that, as we pay our monthly bills. So what has happened is those final notices have triggered these three people to realize they didn't pay their taxes. And they all have a reason, and they all have a different reason, why they didn't pay their taxes. And these three people, based on their reasons, are requesting that the board waive that 10% penalty, and basically give that money back to them. In the history of Penridge, as far as I know, and as far as Dr. Yarnall has told me, because he goes back much farther than me, these were never approved.
He goes back farther than everybody.
These were never approved by the board, and the reason being is that the solicitor's advice is always to make sure that all taxpayers are treated the same. No one gets any differential treatment. Everyone gets the bills. Everyone has the same amount of time to pay discount, to pay face, to pay penalty, and delinquent. As long as everyone's treated the same, the district is fine when we stand. And the district starts to say, I like you better because your story is better, and I'll give you the discount. If your story is not good, you're not going to get the discount. Or we're not going to give you the money back. Then we have a big problem. And that is basically, if we approve these, is what we would be doing. We would be saying to all the rest of the people that paid the 10% penalty, you pay it, but you three people, you've got a good story, whatever that story is. And most people have a great story. Something happened, their spouse died, their spouse paid the bills, they didn't know about it, they didn't get it paid in time, the final notice came, they didn't even know they had a tax bill until the final notice came. Or we were in closing at July 1st or June 30th, and the bill didn't get to us. Well, that's the responsibility of the folks at closing to make sure that the tax bills are taken care of and given to the paid and that. So there are people to do that. So those are the reasons we normally get, those type of reasons. And they're usually good reasons, but again, as a board, as a taxing authority, you need to make sure that you treat all the taxpayers under the same circumstances.
And I think the one request is identical to, situation identical to one that we had.
Yes.
So, I mean, that would be awful, like you said. Yes, and then it stinks, I can say that I had to pay penalty because we didn't get our bill, not here, it's somewhere else, and, it is what it is. It does stink.
Okay. So, this will not move forward.
Okay.
All right, there you go.
Just don't even move forward.
Well, or do you want to go down and
I
form
think you
We have to.
Don't we have to,
Yeah.
don't we have to
Yeah.
vote?
I think that's,
Pretty
I
sure.
think that's what we did before, we
Sorry.
took them and voted down.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it's tough though when you hear some people's circumstances and you wanna be able to,
You do want, but it is
Absolutely.
literally identical situation.
Absolutely. In the law, your only recourse is to fall back on what the law says, and that's what you should follow as a school board, as a taxing authority. And the law clearly says that is the responsibility of the taxpayer to pay the tax bill, even if they didn't get the bill.
Yeah.
It's their responsibility. So, you know, if that wasn't there, everyone could say, hey, I don't know, because what proof do we have that someone got the bill?
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
we can't prove that when we put it in the mail, you got it. So, you know, that's why the law's written the way it is. So.
Okay, the student activity account as requested,
So this is the ninth grade class getting their class account set up, class of 2022. Each year the freshman class comes in, it takes them a while to get organized. They just went through their officer elections, I think before Christmas, right before Christmas break. So they have their officers in place now. Now they're ready to get their class account set up and start rolling for the next 4 years. So again, this just needs board approval to set up, and they'll be off and running. So. And that's it for finance on the agenda. I will just tell you quickly, budget process, the department heads and principals, their due date was yesterday, at the end of the day, to have their budgets in. So we've now set up all of our meetings with our department heads and our principals. We're gonna take about a week and work through all the numbers, and then start those meetings. We're gonna run those meetings for the next 2 to 3 weeks after that. Personnel budgeting is underway. The goal is to have that done by January 18th, and then we take a couple weeks to sit down and just fine comb all that information, because that is such a large amount of the budget, of the total dollar amount of the budget is our personnel and the benefit costs that go along with them. So we go through that with a fine tooth comb. And, you know, we are in the heat of it right now. So I just wanted to let you know that we're off and running, and we're working at it, so that's all I have.
all right, the next finance committee meeting is scheduled for February 12th, 2019, and we're back to public comment.
Good evening, Lee Rosh, Perkins. There's no microphones, is there? So, I was really fascinated with the discussion tonight about Rachel's Challenge. Thank you so much for your interest and your passion to bring this awareness to our community. I think it's really hard to put a price on life. So one of the challenges is trying to weigh out your expenditures with such a large number of kids. I think part of the research that they've done is they've said there's been some kids that come up and, like anytime you have a large assembly, somebody's gonna get emotionally impacted, when you sit in the audience, they'll be like believing that whole message is directed right to them, and they'll come up and talk to somebody. So I think one of the things they mentioned is that they think they prevented 8 mass shootings and hundreds of suicides. It's hard to tell. So it's hard to put a price on life. Having been in the field my whole life about prevention and intervention, it's always tricky with numbers, when they throw out numbers like this. There's such a trend going on all over the country in reducing discipline referrals. There's so much awareness now than ever about prevention. So everybody wants to claim it was their intervention, sometimes it made a difference. To me, it doesn't matter what really, is the cause of the change. I think that one of the things, as I heard somebody said that the suicide number was like 42%, did somebody say that? 41, 42? So were you talking about Penridge?
It was one of the Penridge numbers, but I'm
So
not sure
it's
which
actually
survey.
like 7%. So these are the PAYS numbers from our most recent survey in Penridge, it was the fall of 2017. 7% of seniors attempted it that year. 4% of 6th graders, 6% of 8th graders, and 9% of 10th graders. The more frightening statistic is those that attempt it twice. So even though this survey instrument asked that question when we did the survey years ago, we were really interested in multiple attempts because that's the #1 risk factor for completed suicide. So in Penridge, it was about 4% attempted more than once, which is the biggest risk factor. So the bottom line is, like, those numbers are important to get out to the community, so I just wanted to correct that number, so people don't
I
think
think
it's 40.
this might have been building specific, but it was, you're talking about attempts, and I'm talking about considering. It was, and maybe I'm not maybe we're not looking at the same survey,
Yeah,
but this is
considering
about
was
having
19, 15, 18, it's still high, 1%'s high. It doesn't matter really. The bottom line is
They're
this
different
data.
years too, so I don't know which year.
The bottom line is the data is important.
Mhm.
It's almost like going for a blood test and never getting the results back. And some people walk around with these cholesterol numbers, because they never really look at the numbers, oh yeah, I should not eat that food, because it's gonna cause more higher blood pressure, whatever. So I think a real trick is gonna be getting this data to the community. And because we don't have a youth coalition like we did years ago, the data's sitting here, it's public. But trying to get that number, and this is what I'd recommend for the March event, is to have a fact sheet with our data so we can share with parents that come that night what's really happening here in our community. Otherwise, they go around thinking it's national numbers, it's not that bad here. So we can talk later about that, and it really should not really come necessarily from the school, because this is a community problem. So we used to do our press conferences at the college and say that churches, businesses, youth programs, parent groups, young people, those were the ones that gave the data. Because if you give it from the school building or the school table, it looks like it's a school problem. It's really a community. So nonetheless, it's really a very tricky business in this world of trying to prevent things like this from happening. Anytime board members are fascinated and interested and really passionate about social and emotional health, I think that's wonderful. Whether or not it's worth it, it's, like I said, how do you measure life? You know, it's hard. So thank you very much for your interest. I'm probably close to 3 minutes.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, then we will adjourn the finance committee.